Ramona Wright, creator and host of Miss Wright Says, a blog, podcast, and TV show. And I'm really excited about my first show. Today I'm going to be talking about dads. There's been a lot of talk in the media about Lemonade. I love Beyonce and I love her single ladies, but I felt like I needed to shout out the single dads, married dads, and men in our community who are stepping up. And I like to say that I'm going to serve a little limeade on today's episode and celebrate you guys for stepping up and doing your thing. Before I tell you a little bit about who these gentlemen are, I want to send a shout out to our sponsors. This first episode could not have happened without the support of some of our great partners, Loveless Media, Maker City LA, and a very generous anonymous donor. Thank you for your support. We're also shooting today in Evolve Studio, an amazing art gallery located in downtown LA at Maker City. So I'm really excited to learn more about these dads. And fellas, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourselves. What do you do to bring home the bacon? And tell us your names as well.
My name is James Pena. I work in the cable television industry.
My name is Charles Opong, and I'm a school program director.
My name is Paul Facillo, and I work at an entertainment advertising agency. I'm a producer for Blu-ray, DVD, and digital.
My name is Robert Lewis, and I run a consulting group geared towards supporting nonprofits, helping them build their capacity.
Very nice. Well, I ask what you all do for a living because I think a lot of times men are often reduced to a paycheck. You know, the father is the provider, which is an unfortunate stereotype. I wanted to ask you all, what are some other stereotypes that you all feel like you've been pigeonholed into as men or potentially as fathers?
Well, I think your comment kind of nailed it in terms of men, fathers in particular, especially fathers who are single dads, no longer with the mother of the child, whether it's ex-wife or whatever the relationship was. Oftentimes we get relegated to the ATM machine, essentially, just cutting a check every month. And as long as we play that role and just don't interfere with whatever the parenting partner's trying to do, everything's all good. So I hear that story a lot, unfortunately, from a lot of men.
I think another stereotype is emotionally detached. Mm-hmm. Pops wants to sit on the sofa and not be out there at the daughter's ballet or softball games or whatever it is. So I think that's a stereotype that the people believe in right now.
Charles or Paul?
Go ahead. Just using a very good friend of mine as an example, being a stay-at-home dad, mm-hmm. Taking care of three, young girls, none of which are over the age of 7, and while wife goes to work. Mm-hmm. So that's one. Mm-hmm.
And I agree with all of these comments. And just myself personally, I've experienced people who have told me things like that, the mother sort of needs to be more or less involved more than the father, because of that emotional connection or nurturing connection. And I disagree. I think the father could be just as nurturing and have an emotional connection as well.
Yeah, or at least a different kind of nurturing. It doesn't have to look, it doesn't have to be boxed or,
exactly
aligned with the traditional sense of what you think of as a nurturer.
So since we've talked a little bit about the stereotypes, tell me maybe one aspect of your parenting style that defies some of those stereotypes. James?
I think for me, my role is just to love my daughter. I mean, the fact that she's alive, she gets love, period. Mm-hmm. So I think emotional connection, I hate to admit it, but I've cried at a couple of her ballet.
It's okay to admit it. Men cry.
But,
sometimes.
That's sweet.
Yeah. So I think those are a couple of ones I've defied for sure. And my daughter would let you know that, Daddy, you crying again? So.
You're in good company. Obama has cried, and I think he's going to cry some more soon when the oldest is off to college.
There you go.
Charles, I know you're going to be a new dad very soon,
yes.
So you're going to join the daddy circle. Yes. But I know you're very actively involved in your community. What do you think are some roles that you've defied in regards to the stereotypes?
Being there for young Black men. Mm-hmm. It's a stereotype in which I feel like most men of color tend to take a lot of jabs for, not being there. Working with kids and being a teacher, you tend to see, especially when you see grandma or mom or sister coming to pick up the student, I get a little, I want to say maybe overexcited when I see, dad coming to pick up, his daughter or son, and actually caring, asking questions, and just having a sense of urgency and concern for their child. So that's something that I definitely want to champion, and gotta definitely tip my hat off to the dads out there who are doing that. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You too?
In my situation as well, I have a 50-50 situation with my my son's mom, so we share custody. And to both of your points about being more involved, for example, I take my son to the doctor, I take my son to the dentist, I cook at home, I clean for him as well, so.
Men cook?
I know, I actually had to learn.
You better stop it.
I had to learn that as well. But just in terms of like what we were talking about earlier, being there on other levels. And so I feel that's something that I've contributed. And I feel like that's something that a lot of our society, they don't really see those aspects.
Right.
Yeah, to piggyback on it, the cooking thing, that's definitely me. I mean, my son will tell you that daddy is a better cook than mom. I don't know how many times you'll hear that from kids. So my son lives in Washington, D.C. He's 13, and that's not by choice, and I don't know if we'll get into that. So I'm doing some long distance parenting, which is tough, really tough. But I spoke to him just a few days ago, and he talked about this summer looking forward to cooking with me. He's kind of adopted that, I guess, so he enjoys cooking like his dad. So that's one stereotype I definitely break. Another may be fathers have the reputation of being the heavy hand. I don't believe in corporal punishment, spanking. I mean, some people still do it. To each his own, all good. I've never had to do it. So just in looking at me, big black man, you might think, hey, you get out of line. Never raised a hand at my boy, have never thought about it, have never had to. To this day, I can just stare at him, and he knows when I look at him a certain way.
The daddy look.
It's done. Now, he's 13, so that may end in a few years. I realize that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but I believe that I've planted those seeds to where that, that's not even an option, so.
Well, and it's so funny that you all talk about cooking because I love t-shirts, so I wore this shirt in honor of the perception of dads out there. So, I think a lot of women probably think, oh, all dads do are going to feed the kids pizza and they're going to sleep all day. That's what I do, actually. I love pizza, and if I could sleep all day, I would. But on a serious note, Charles, you brought up something that I wanted to come back to about the perception of black men. And I think many of us are familiar with Don Lemon from CNN. Bill Cosby, prior to the rape allegations, he was very condescending towards African Americans, especially African American men. We also know President Obama has sort of scolded over the years black men to get more involved and be more present. But I did a little research prior to this conversation, and I really wanted to know what are the statistics of the presence of black men in their children's lives. And supposedly 67 to 70% of African American children, unfortunately, are raised by single parents, which is a pretty high number. But I wanted to also look at the other communities. The Hispanic or Latino community is about 43%, Native Americans 53%, and whites would be 25%. But then I said, well, let's look at it from a national perspective. What's happening in the United States overall? And actually, 26% of all American children are raised by single-parent households, which I thought was pretty astounding. So the majority of those people are probably mothers, right? And I know the two of you take much more of an active, engaged role in your children's lives. But I wondered, what is causing that? And some people might say it's cultural shifts. Many more women are wanting to have children by themselves, parent by themselves. Unfortunately, we know economically that sometimes has an impact on families sticking together. So then I said, well, let me look and see what's going on outside of the US. And we are actually, we're number one in regards to, as a developed country, with the number one level or percentage of single parent households, but Ireland was second. Would have never guessed that. And then number 3 is New Zealand. And Greece, Spain, and Italy actually have the lowest percentage rates of children in single-parent homes of any developed country. So I just thought it would be great to sort of take that negative shadow off of Black men, especially because as a country, I really believe we have a single-parent problem in general. There's not enough support for parents that are co-parenting, but definitely not enough support for single parents. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation is I'm a product of a single parent. My mom raised my brother and I on about $14,000 a year. I was the first person in my family to go to college. And if you would have asked me what I wanted when I was growing up for Christmas, probably from 2 years old to probably 15, it was a dad. I always wanted a dad. And I would see kids running around with their dads, and I'd always ask my mom, why don't I have a dad? And she never disparaged my father. She just said, you don't have one.